Hello, my friend. Come in, come in, come in. Don't be shy. Welcome along to Inside the Gold Cup, the only show that analyses each and every match in the 2007 Gold Cup. My name is Dennis Katsanos. I'm your host. With me, two of the best footballing brains in the world, Shep Messing, John Harks, otherwise known as...
Where are the footballing brains? I'll go get them.
I was going to call you guys like the Plato and Einstein.
Oh,
you know,
I like that.
Two,
it's a little bit of a step up from the old Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Cracks me up.
Gentlemen, now we've had 18 games in the tournament. We've reviewed 16 of them. What do you think of the tournament so far, Shep?
I love the tournament. I love the tournament, but in terms of the quality of the football, it changes as the tournament evolves. One of the issues is, John and Dennis, that, you know, not enough recovery time in group play. I think the quality now will get better, but it's also a function of what kind of depth you have on the roster.
Absolutely, Shep, and that's a good point. I mean, the quality of play goes down a little bit, and you see that in certain games, especially with Mexico. And I know I hate to keep hitting on them, but seriously, I mean, they haven't played too particularly well, you know, throughout this game. But when you talk about the depth and quality, I mean, that's very important because you need players that are coming off the bench. We heard it from the coaches beforehand. Guadalupe said the same thing. He was like, I turned to my bench and I got injuries. I've got players that can't recover. Their fitness level isn't there. So, it's going to deplete your squad. And then, obviously, then, you know, if you don't have the energy level, it's going to dip down in your performance level.
Now, from what you guys are saying, I'm just getting the inkling that you're saying that as the tournament's gone on, maybe the quality of football's declined a little bit. John, would that be correct?
I would think that's a correct statement, Dennis. I think and it's not gone down tremendously. I'm not saying it's been, I mean, because seriously, for me, I mean, Panama's a strong team as well. You know, coming out in the third match, I think they came out and played very well. But I'm just saying, like, overall, I would say generally, yes. I would say that the quality has gone down. And when you have 2 days of recovery in between games like this at a high-quality level, it's difficult to raise your game and bring it back up to that level again. It really is.
There's another issue, Dennis. I don't want to disagree with you, but you know, you got a statement correct, and I'll pick up on John's point that the quality takes a little bit of a dip because of what we're talking about, right? A couple of days in between games, depth in the roster, but it's also a tactical approach in group play. So now I think, now everybody knows where they stand. Now as we get into the quarterfinals, I think we're going to see the best of play from the teams.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I think it changed from game to game, the tactical awareness of the coach itself. Maybe we've had 2 wins. Maybe we can conserve a little bit here, sit back and play a different style of football. Maybe we don't, and we have to go out and play a little bit high, and then sometimes you get caught in behind by pushing numbers forward. So it definitely changes the game as it goes on throughout the tournament. So
in the round robin, teams, Shep, from what you're saying, teams are quite happy to, you know, not go fully hard out and, you know, and put their body on the line each and every time, just do enough to win.
Well, Dennis, I could tell you never played football. But no, listen, listen, you got to go out and play hard. You can never go into a game and not play hard. But there is a more tactical approach in group play where there's a certain mentality that the players and the coach says, hey, I just want to get out of the group. Once I get out of the group, it's knockout, you know, full speed, 90 minutes, you know, do or die. So that's when I think it's going to get better.
John, have you ever been in that position where you mentally maybe coasted a little bit thinking, okay, well, you know, say, for example, for the USA, you got 6 points, you don't really need to win your third match. Would you think, okay, well, we'll just cruise through this last game?
Absolutely, and it goes back to '93, just before we went to the final against Mexico, which was in Mexico City, Azteca Stadium. I remember the game before that, prior to that, we were trying to conserve energy, and the coach was actually saying that if there are times when you feel like you have given enough to the game, and maybe you might be, you know, stressing yourself or, you know, stretching yourself up and over that limit, just let me know and we'll pull you off the pitch and we'll give you a break. I mean, you need to conserve that for the final and things like that. So, yeah, there are times where you sit back a little bit and change your game.
Well, upon our return, we analyse the final round-robin matches from Group C. Meanwhile, here's a little FYI.
At the Gatorade Sports Science Institute, we test athletes in the lab. Because we know they'll be tested on the field. Gatorade, the most tested sports drink on the planet.
The screenings that happen here might be fun or dramatic, but it's not real life. There's another screening that is real life, and it could save your life. It's a screening test for colorectal cancer, the second leading cancer killer of men and women. Screening finds precancerous polyps so they can be removed before they turn into cancer. I got screened. Now it's your turn, so you can stick around and enjoy the show.
If you're 50 or older, get screened for colorectal cancer.
Work like a pro. Play like a pro. Tackle tough jobs. Dominate the game. Destroy the competition. Go professional. Choose Makita.
Welcome back to Inside the Gold Cup, where the final round robin matches from Group C were played yesterday. First up was Cuba and Honduras, and if we look at this Cuban lineup, trouble for Gonzalez. 3 players out for him, with no Alonso, no Lestamore, and also Minoso out, and Sheppy had just 17 players to choose from.
Hey, John, Dennis is scaring me, but they're a depleted squad. Molina in goal. Keep an eye on Marquez. I know Harksy's going to talk about him later. And, you know, what do they do up front? They still have Alcantara, John, but the depth not there.
Yeah, absolutely. But Fife is a very dangerous player. Cervantes likes to turn on the game when he gets the ball played to feet quite well. So hopefully they can put this together. But unfortunately, this didn't pan out for him.
Now, how hard would it be for Gonzalez having just such a limited amount of players to choose from, John?
Oh, it's going to be very difficult. I think it goes back to, you know, what we were saying beforehand. With so many short periods of time in between for preparation work, you really try to at least, you know, have a chance that you can depend on your bench and players coming in and they're healthy and they're sharp. He doesn't have that, so when your squad's limited, it's definitely going to hurt your chances of being successful on the field.
Yeah, by the same token, though, I think your big players, and every team has big players. When you're depleted, injuries, little time between games, you need big games from your big players. Cuba didn't get that.
Yeah. Well, for Honduras, the men taking the field were on a high after beating Mexico. 11 players ready to go out there and do battle with Cuba, Shep.
Yeah, Vallecillo in goal, traditionally 3 at the back. The one real addition to this lineup, John, that you're going to see help the team is Leon. Had a promotion game in Syria to get to Serie A, but he's here for this game.
Yeah, not only is he here, but he's here mentally as well. He's probably a little bit jet lagged, but you know, but certainly when he comes into this side, he loves bonding with his national team, and he's proud to be back there with the shirt on. He's a fantastic player, and he gets things going.
Yeah, you talk about, I mean, a team that needs one more player maybe to make them great. We're going to see in this game that Leon really had an effect on the team. Costly up front, Pavone, but you always need that guy to make the pass that makes the pass.
Yeah, and for me, and we've talked about Guevara, how especially when he was at the Metro Stars, now the Red Bulls, he was a player that can get the ball and feed it and display it all over the pitch. And now you've seen Leon, he's the next guy up. He's higher up the pitch, so he's feeding him. He's the link. He brings it all together, and he's a very creative player, in which he does in this game. I mean, it was fantastic the way he's finding players up front. Pavone is thank you very much. I can't wait to pay him half my wages because he's putting the ball on my head. He's putting my ball on my feet. Fantastic player.
Well, when it comes to the highlights of Cuba versus Honduras, yes, one name stands out, and that is Pavone.
Yeah, well, Leon got into the game right away, ran down the left flank, pushed it wide. Costly's going to square it, John, and then Pavone. How easy is that? Oh,
it's too easy for him. I mean, he's wide open in the box. Nobody's there. Covering balance isn't there. I mean, this is against the run of play, a transition play where they lost possession, but again, just a good ball in the box. Very simple to put it across, and there he is.
Yeah, we'll talk about the woeful Cuban defense later, but again, it's Pavone. Marquez gets absolutely embarrassed, takes it into the box. Molina makes a mistake coming out as well.
Yeah, he does, but you talk about scoring goals, and that's a courageous effort from Pavone.
Yeah, do it again. You know, it's working again. He loses his mark at the near post. Marquez, number 3. Pavone gets up big, agile, strong, nods it home.
It's a great ball by Leon as well from the corner kick. Again, he's involved in the play, and here he is. Shep, second half, and look at his cutting inside, finds it, threads the needle, and Pavone says, thank you very much. Look at flamboyant on the finish. I love it.
Yeah, flicks it up to himself outside of the right foot, goes far post. I'll tell you what, this is a dream game for Pavone. Now the game starts to get nasty. Cervantes, I don't know whether that should have been a red, but it is what the referee says.
Well, the dream turns into a nightmare for Cuba. Now they're playing the man down, and they had the depleted roster. Now the penalty kick as well. Marquez going to the ground, but who's up there to finish it? The one and only Guevara. He loves penalties, Shep. He hit the post with one in the last game, but he loves taking them. Never shy to step up.
Hey, you know what, though? Good for his confidence that they gave him. Who's going to step up? Pavone had already been taken out of the game. We look at the stats. That's a one-way affair.
Very much a one-way affair. And the biggest result in the Gold Cup so far, a 5-0 victory to Cuba. Now, John, we saw the Cubans against Mexico. We saw them against Panama. They were fantastic. Beautiful ball movement, beautiful passing. What went wrong against Honduras?
I just think it's just what you're saying in terms of when you have to move the ball quickly, it's 1 and 2 touches. It's also having the players moving off the ball. So the energy level dipped a little bit. I don't think the runs were there, but that chemistry was not there either. And when you get caught in possession with the ball too many times, players are already taken out of the game, as you'll see later. But, you know, this is something that, you know, Cuba kind of fell victim of. They're fatigued. They're tired and they're not moving the ball quickly.
They got exposed, and you know, you look at this game with Honduras. The big upset against Mexico. Either they're going to have a letdown or they're going to build on it. Obviously, they came out flying. I think Leon made a big difference, but they exposed Cuba in the back.
Yeah, and Leon's a fantastic player, and he showed that. Seriously, coming on the field. I mean, what a great first game for Honduras again. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of exposed, though, one of the elements that John and Shep picked out for this game in terms of our breakdown was Cuba's defence at the back, particularly when Honduras caught them on the counter.
Yeah, I mean, and this is one situation here, getting caught in possession. We talked about moving the ball here. Look at the number of players, I mean, that are above in advanced position. So they're all out of the play here. Recovery time, transition, chasing back. They're all still in good positions, though. They're marked up. They got enough players here. But Leon does this. He splits them wide. This guy commits too much. He keeps them onside by tracking back deep into the box. Caught in the middle of nowhere, Shep, and they're the back post, open, naked.
Yeah, again, the same thing at near post. 2 defenders right there. Nobody jumps. And look at Pavone. He slips in. You gotta, if you're a defender, you got to be between the man and the goal. And that's Marquez, number 3. He gets lost, and Pavone punishes him.
Well, he's lost so far in 2 of those games, 2 of those goals, sorry. But this is a player that is the captain of the side and has been a leader from the first match on, and he seems to have fallen apart, really, as well as the rest of the defense in this game.
Well, again, combination of 2 things. I think Honduras really came out and played well. We talked about Leon making a difference to that team, and you're right. Guevara sits back deep, and then he needs that link. And Leon turned out to be the link up front to Costly to Pavone, and a career night for Pavone.
Well, for Honduras, it wasn't all attack. Their defence was outstanding as well.
And this just starts off straight away right here. Ball played in the back. Gets in a little bit here, but look at the defense. Everybody's in good shape. They're marking up a man, and this is a great open field tackle. Shep, he gets to the ground, does his job, and then clears it out, and that's what you want from a defender.
John, you were the captain. You always organize the guys from your deep midfield position, and that's organization. Guys tracking back, being in good positions, covering for each other. They rarely got out of position.
That's a great turnaround here. Guevara tracking back, toe poke back, 1 touch, 2 touch, Guevara again. But I'm sorry, Amato, let the ball roll across your body, take it on your left foot. He doesn't trust it. Cuts back in. He really slowed his own play down there. He needed to let that ball come across him.
You know Amato Guevara better than anybody. He doesn't have a left foot, so he cuts it back to the right. He
loves the old, like, this way lean, the old Stanley Matthews, come back inside. Old English people, you know, hit the website. You'll check it out.
Now the numbers don't lie. In their first game against Panama, they conceded 3. Next game against Mexico, it's 1. And this one was, of course, a 0. So Honduras, defensively, they're just getting stronger and stronger, Shep.
Well, I think there are lots of things when it comes to defending. As John knows, you got to be organized. You have to defend together. Also, when you possess the ball, that's a pretty good defense. So against Cuba, Honduras had a lot of the ball, and then when they lost it, good transition to get back.
Yeah, and I also think it's self-belief in terms of their organization and their tactics. They probably believe in what the coach is telling them to do, and then, you know, you've got to execute that, and you've got to have players next to each other, and when it's basically the chain link, you know, when one guy slides across, the other one goes and covers and balances, and they did it all night long. And when they had to, you know, be exposed in a 1v1 situation, they came up big. They made the tackles, you know, as we saw there beforehand, Amato Guevara getting tackles from behind, chasing back, and we saw it from Leon. We sait through everybody. They did a very good job with that.
That's a great point, because we talk about organization and we talk about playing as a unit defensively, but at the end of the day, you know, individual battles. So they did it all.
Did a very good job.
John, did Cuba have a meltdown, or was Honduras just on fire last night?
I think it was a combination of both. I think that because of Honduras's, you know, not first of all, just their shape and the way they presented themselves on the field. I mean, it made it difficult for Cuba to break down. And then after a period of time, you know, a little bit of fatigue set in, as we said beforehand. Cuba really not taking the chance to move the ball 1 and 2 touch and utilize their speed from their players that they had beforehand. In the first match against Mexico, they were flying on the counterattack. Unfortunately for them, Honduras did such a good job of organization that there was nowhere to go. And then when they shut them down, they transitioned very quickly. And Leon, get the ball to his feet, please, and let the boy run, because he's got such a great vision. And technically, he's so good on the ball. He just draws a defender and commits him, and he slips it, and he did a very good job. Yeah,
no, and Dennis, John, another point. I mean, John's absolutely right. I mean, Leon, I think, made a huge difference. Sometimes a game just gets away from you. And that early goal, I mean, 3rd or 4th minute, right? Leon to Costly, Costly to Pavone. Okay, 1 goal down, you could stay in the game, but the next one, I think that just deflated the Cuban team.
Yeah, and disappointing, really, too. From you know, you hate to point, you know, or single out one player. It's never like that, and especially from a coaching aspect. You want, yeah, it was this, and that, and you guys are all kind of the domino effect that kind of like trickled down. But you want to look at Marquez. I mean, as a captain, as a leader, he didn't really pull the team together when they needed to, and it looked like he was wiped out. It looked like he was exhausted, and when physical fatigue kicks in, the mental part of your game starts to slip, and you can't switch off mentally in these games at this level. You've just got to be staying in tune all the time.
Now, I know both of you guys have played all over the world. One comment that was made was the pitch. It was a little bit bobbly. We saw that in there. Shep, you've ever been called out by a bit of a bobble that sort of rolls over your hand when someone's shooting at goal?
It's a bobble. It's a bobble.
A bobble?
It's a bobble?
What
Yeah, it's a bobble.
Bobble, you know, bouncy ball, or the ball hits a divot?
I just love your accent, man. I'm just telling you, I love the accent.
Hey, Dennis, it's happened in my career, but I handled it. Not a problem.
Yeah, not a problem for him. But the pitch, yeah, there was a, you know, going back to the surface, and this is the first thing, as soon as, you know, we were all watching the match together, and when we watched it, we were all like, wait a minute, that ball, when it was played out, it went bump, 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 just to get 10 yards. So, yeah, it was a difficult surface, but having said that, there's 22 players playing on the pitch. So
I'll throw in one other factor, though, because this was a spectacular sold-out stadium, 68,000 people. And John, maybe a little bit of, you know, Cuba is not used to playing in front of 68,000 people.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, surely that maybe causes a bit of unrest with them and a lack of confidence in their game. So, what a tremendous atmosphere. I'm glad you reminded us of that. The stadium was absolutely packed and full and loud. It was brilliant to see, and you know, it's good for Concacaf. It's good for soccer in this country.
Now, most of the crowd, fairly enough, were probably there for the Mexican-Panama game afterwards. When you're playing, you know, when you're Cuba and Honduras and you have got a large crowd there, and it is for someone else, and they're making a lot of noise in your game, what sort of impact does it have on you on the field? Does it make you a little bit more nervous, a little bit more agitated, or you just tune them out and off you go once the whistle blows? I
think, you know, as any player will try to do, is just use that positive energy to build your own game up. And, you know, plenty of times you do it. And as in one of our shows that I said in the past, we played down in Mexico in Azteca Stadium, which is very difficult to play in altitude, the smog, and the amount of people, over 100,000 people screaming for Mexico. You turn it around, and they're actually cheering for you at a particular time. So you use that in a positive way.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I always felt that I was energized by playing against a hostile crowd, right? Because you have to focus more. I found it more difficult when you had a passionate crowd cheering for you. It's kind of, you know, rally around the wagon. Hostile crowd, you focus more.
It's sort of like a Happy Gilmore situation. No, honestly, I mean, being serious, I mean, you need the noise, you need the atmosphere in the stadium. That's what gets the blood going, the adrenaline, and it pumps you up for the match. So it's all about the environment in that moment. You've got to capture it, use it in a positive way, and get you going.
I don't want to see you playing golf. No, but on a football note, you know, comedians have hecklers, etc. Have you ever heard anyone in the crowd say something to you like, you know, it might be offensive, it might be supportive? Have you ever tuned anything out when there is a crowd of 70,000 people, Shep?
I'm not answering that.
No? No?
Okay. No, you don't. You don't. I mean, if you would, I remember playing at Maracanã Stadium, and 200,000 people. It was Pelé tour. And you'd have to go under a moat and a barbed wire fence, and you come up into the stadium, Maracanã, 200,000 people. And if you think about it, you're giving up goals left and right. So you kind of hear an echo, a roar. You never hear one heckler. I know, Dennis, maybe you hear hecklers, but no, you don't hear a heckler. I never heard one heckler from the stands.
No, I mean, you know, there's going to be certain times where something's said or whatever, you're coming out the tunnel, you know, and you might be close enough to the fans where you hear something. But again, you know, like Shep said, you know, you're playing in stadiums that are massive. You know, it goes back to 1990 in Italy when we qualified for the first World Cup after 40 years. And, you know, I remember with Tab Ramos, and we're trying to scream to each other on the pitch because you can't hear an Olympic stadium against Italy. It's just so loud. Our national anthem's going off, and we're like, is it over? You can't hear. It's just that type of atmosphere, but you love it, man. That's what players live for every single time. They want the stadium full. They want the noise. They want the passion.
Well, hopefully I get to experience that one day. You guys are going to say no. No, all right. Well, next up on Inside the Gold Cup, we have the second Group C game between Mexico and Panama from the 2007 Gold Cup.
Work like a pro. Play like a pro. Tackle tough jobs. Dominate the game. Destroy the competition. Go professional. Choose Makita.
Through the Football for Hope movement, FIFA is committed to protecting children and their rights, furthering social integration, and peace and reconciliation. Football for Hope champions health promotion and anti-discrimination. FIFA is firmly committed to using football to resolve some of the most pressing social challenges of our time. Football can change the world.
At the Gatorade Sports Science Institute, we test athletes in the lab. Because we know they'll be tested on the field. Gatorade, the most tested sports drink on the planet.
Welcome back to Inside the Gold Cup, where the second Group C match, the final round robin match for Group C, was between Mexico and Panama. And as per normal, Mexico line up with a star-studded team on the park, Shep.
Yeah, star-studded individuals, but I'll tell you what, they didn't play like a team. Sanchez in goal, Salcido, one of the good players in the back, but John, take it away.
Well, I mean, thanks, Shep, for jumping back over here and letting me know that Mexico isn't a good team, because finally coming around. Salcedo, good player, back in the starting lineup. There was at one point where he tried to come in as a sub and he refused to. So there's a little bit of turmoil going on there. Borghetti up top as usual, the big tall striker.
I know you like Castillo. I love Blanco out of the lineup too.
Yeah,
but
me too.
I'm jumping on the Hawksy bandwagon because
I don't see a lot of star-studded lineups there. I know the players, I see them, but in terms of like an actual performance, though, Dennis, I think they're underperforming right now for where they're supposed to be in this tournament.
Does this Mexican team, to you, look like the sort of team that that pressure works for them, or would pressure make them crumble?
I think it's crumbling, but I also think that, in terms of our last show, we did discuss, Shep and I, in deep,
detail.
Detail. Thank you very much. That in the dressing room, there's turmoil. I mean, there's Hugo Sanchez, and whether or not he's micromanaging or he's too stressed or tense or whatever with the boys. And when you don't have a loose dressing room, it definitely comes out into the field that way, and you can see it. So I think
a great example. You pointed out Salcido didn't want to come into the last match as a substitute. That's a real bad sign.
Absolutely.
Well, for Guimaraes and Panama, these were the 11 men that took the park for him. A solid 11, Shep.
Oh, definitely. Pinedo in goal. Panama's been doing well. Moreno, Beloy, I like. Torres, Rivera, solid in the back.
Yeah, Panama, very strong, physical team, very fast as well. And when they do counter, I mean, they counter with numbers going forward, and obviously trying to find Perez early, Gomez, and Garces. I tell you, good player, Garces.
Yeah,
very dangerous. And Shep, we liked him in the first game against, as he cuts back inside, boom, and he bends it to the far post, and that's him coming off as a sub. So he's a good player.
Tactically, Guimaraes, we know, is an absolute genius. Guimaraes versus Sanchez, a fantastic contest between the two coaches.
I couldn't care less about coaches. I mean, I mean, coaches do that. John, you can speak to this. I mean, national team coaches, it's all about the selection of the players, and then you're managing. I mean, you're really not, there are no X's and O's. It's all about chemistry, which I think Hugo Sanchez has lost with the team, selection of the players, and then, hey, the guys have to go out and play.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with Shep in terms of the man management and selection process. It's not like you're with a club every single day and you're developing these players. This is chemistry, and it's also taking a player and putting him next to another player where he's going to be very complementary and he's going to bring the best out of each other. So I think that's what he does very well.
All right, well, let's have a look at the chemistry between Mexico and Panama. Here are the highlights.
Well, 68,000 people, and Beloy with an open header at the 6-yard box. He misses.
And at the other end here, ball watching from the back line, and Borghetti lays this one back. Castillo off the post, unfortunately.
Yeah, we both like this. This is the one that could have turned the game around. Good break, and now Mexico at the other end. That's a nightmare in terms of defending. Salcido puts it in for the goal.
Absolutely, Shep. And this is against the run and play. Panama were all over them, and then one free kick, one set play off a corner, and then it's in the back of the net.
Yeah, I thought Panama totally outplayed the Mexican team. That was a clear offside, not even close. So the referee's assistant got that one right. It's whistled dead before Perez puts it in, but look at the chances Panama has.
This is a great chance right here. Falls to Beloy, but look at this one. Cleared off the line by the defender. Who is it? Guadardo. It looks like the keeper almost gets a touch, and Shep wants to argue with me on that point, but it's clear off the line. Here's another strike deflected off the post.
Unbelievable. Watch the shot whistling off the far post. Panama, I thought, totally outplayed Mexico in terms of chances. Now it gets crazy at the end of the game. This is Escobar, a second yellow card, so he's a red card. And now Torres, that's a straight red. Both those players out in the quarterfinals.
I can't believe that's a straight red, by the way. Torres has every right to argue that call. I mean, you know, you can even look at the other play as well, but here's the stats. Look at the yellow cards. Referee Dennis lost a little bit control of this game. You know, too many yellow cards, just throwing them out. You can't cheapen a card because basically you're trying to keep discipline on the field. When you just start throwing them out loosely like that, players are just like, whatever.
And the dramatic effect that has on the next round. Panama is going to be missing 2 players, red card, they're out of the game. That's a huge disappointment for them. John, in a game where I thought they outplayed Mexico.
Yeah, they did outplay Mexico. They took it to them straight away, Shep. They didn't hold back, and I'll tell you what, they outplayed them. They moved the ball quite well. And basically, at the end of the day, the story is that they just didn't put the ball in the back of the net. In the final third of the field, it's not about just getting the ball up there. It's about actually connecting that final ball, and they didn't do it well.
Yeah, I'm jumping on the Harksey bandwagon, anti-Mexico, because I really thought in this game,
picking a momentum,
Mexico, hey, 68,000 people in Houston. I thought we'd see the best of the Mexican team. They were outplayed by Panama. They got one good opportunity. They capitalized. I mean, Salcido is one of the players I like on the team. Plays for PSV, plays as an outside back. Hugo Sanchez has had trouble with him, put him to his normal position as outside back. But if not for the breakdown by Panama marking on that goal, I mean, Mexico doesn't get a goal, so I'm on your bandwagon.
Yeah, I mean, look, there was chances at both ends. We did say that, but I think you're right, Shep. I think in terms of just really managing the game, I think Panama did a very good job of that. You know, you got Castillo hitting the post on that one particular shot, but other than that, there wasn't a lot in the run of play. They didn't create things out of their own back line, getting forward, development of the ball, there was nothing there from Mexico.
Well, for Panama, the story of the night was missed opportunities.
Missed opportunities as well, Dennis. That's perfectly said, because look at this here. Chance inside early on, and that's Beloy, the captain. Really, you would think he would do better with a shot like that. He's got to bury that, Shep.
He's wide open, and this is Perez. He's a lethal striker. He has Sanchez out, but he can't finish.
And plenty of chances, even striking distance. Look at this. Good strike from distance, unfortunately just off target a little bit, and then the Beloy chance inside the box.
Well, again, some sloppy defending by Mexico. I mean, they're lucky to get away with this. Look at that. I think the keeper got a touch, but...
Guadardo, I mean, he wouldn't turn his head like that if he didn't head it. But anyway, it's not Mike Burns, is it? It's off the post there, but it's deflected C by the number 3.
Salcido gets
Thank you
ahead.
very much. A little bit of deflection would have gone in. And now look at this one.
Yeah, really, you look at this game, the opportunities Panama had, Sanchez makes a save. John, when you have opportunities like that, you got to capitalize. Mexico gets the one, Salcido puts it away.
And Mexico gets the one for one reason. Look, here, everybody's marked up. Okay, he's got his men. Sure, he's on the keeper here, trying to put him off his game. Again, these two are here. There's Beloy pushing his man, saying, stay with him. I'll stay with the man behind. But does he?
That's where the play
That's where it breaks down, right there. He didn't stay with his man, Shep. Left all alone on the back doorstep. Thank you very much. Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt. It's all over.
That's the that's the genius. I mean, that analytical mind of John Harkes, because that was the moment. Beloy he was the one directing traffic. He's the captain. He's a central defender. Corner kick, everybody was marked up, and you saw that moment, John, you froze it, where Beloy said, you push up, and then he didn't mark Salcido behind him.
Exactly.
That's the story of the game.
Well, and sometimes you try to do this as players as well. You're trying to take control of situations, but you forget about your own responsibilities. And that's one thing I think that Beloy did there, Shep, and all it takes is that split second to switch off mentally and forget about the player that you mark, your own responsibility. You can't be ball watching that situation either. If you watch Panama, they're not facing in an open position like I can see the ball and I can see my man. They're actually turned a little bit sideways. They're facing the ball and they're saying, here, he just slips around the back door, and that becomes an easy situation for him.
That's a great point. He's a captain. He's so busy directing traffic on that play, he forgets his own mark.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a shame for Panama because they played so well. Exciting game to watch and a great atmosphere, like you said. 68,000 plus in that stadium. Brilliant.
Well, look, the first two games, I was probably a little bit tough on Panama. I said, look, they might have competed. They had a draw. They had a win. They really didn't do much. But this game, they really came out firing. And the thing that impressed me, they went down to 9 men, and they were still taking the game to the Mexicans.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, actually. And I think that's just in terms of, their mental state of mind. And they're saying, look, we're going after this. We can still get this team, Mexico. And I think they even see it, like we talked about it here. They see that Mexico's not a very confident side. They see the turmoil. They see the lack of chemistry in terms of their buildup. And also they see, one player breaks down, the next guy's not there to help him as much. So they didn't really stick together, Mexico. But they got the result. They've gone through. Hugo Perez, as much as you want to say about him not being a good manager, they still got through.
What's going wrong for Mexico in terms of the final third? They're not scoring. And please don't say they're not putting the ball in the back of the net. I realise that. But what is going wrong for Mexico, and they're not capitalising? They scored 4 against Iran in a friendly just before this tournament, and they just can't seem to do it in this tournament, Shep.
Well, we could start with the attack. I'm more shocked by their porous defending. They were woeful on the defensive side of the ball. If you give a team like Panama chances like that, Panama should have scored 2 or 3 goals. In terms of transition, getting into the attack, I can't put my finger on it. I don't like Blanco. I don't think they have any fluidity once they get into the attacking third of the field. I like Castillo as a player. I like Borghetti, but it's just, not enough good runs off the ball, not enough precision passing, and they're not finishing.
Well, one thing too, Shep, and you'll know this because as a goalkeeper, you're always thinking about who are your top strikers, who's the one who finishes very well, who's courageous enough to put himself in situations that is going to get a goal. And that means putting yourself sacrifice. You got to put your body across. And for me, when you talk about some of the top strikers in the world, whether it be like a Drogba, a Chelsea, you got to have courage. You've got to have the ability as well to match that. And I don't think Mexico has that in either of their players. Borghetti is like a target man up top. He's strong in that, but is he really mobile? Is he a guy that's going to turn somebody one-on-one, get in the box, and execute a final play? I don't think so.
Did they miss Blanco?
No. I don't think anybody missed Blanco. No, I really don't.
No, that's not the problem. I think John really makes a good point because all the great goal scorers in the world, they have that hunger when there's a half a chance, a 50-50 ball, they'll spit, they'll kick, they'll dive, they'll do anything to put that ball in the net. It just hasn't happened for Mexico.
Based on Mexico's 3 games so far, do you think they can go all the way and win the tournament, Shep?
I told you, I'm jumping right back on the Hoxie bandwagon. I really felt that in front of this crowd, John, in Houston, 68,000 plus, we would see the best of Mexico. When we didn't see that against Panama, I'm writing them off for the tournament.
Yeah, it was a combination of Panama doing so well, Shep, but also, like you said, the lack of quality from this Mexican side. So definitely they're not playing up to par. They've gotten through to the next round. And to answer your question, Dennis, I would say no, I don't think they have enough to get to the final.
All right, Huxley, well, we'll see if that reigns true. Next up on Inside the Gold Cup, we wrap up Group C. We do all the little permutations and see what happened in the tournament for them, and also look ahead to the quarterfinals.
At the Gatorade Sports Science Institute, we test athletes in the lab. Because we know they'll be tested on the field. Gatorade, the most tested sports drink on the planet.
The screenings that happen here might be fun or dramatic, but it's not real life. There's another screening that is real life, and it could save your life. It's a screening test for colorectal cancer, the second leading cancer killer of men and women. Screening finds precancerous polyps so they can be removed before they turn into cancer. I got screened. Now it's your turn, so you can stick around and enjoy the show.
If you're 50 or older, get screened for colorectal cancer.
Work like a pro. Play like a pro. Tackle tough jobs. Dominate the game. Destroy the competition. Go professional. Choose Makita.
If you're looking for technical analysis of the Gold Cup, you've come to the right place. The show is called Inside the Gold Cup. My name is Dennis Katsanos. With me, the Laverne and Shirley of football. Shep Messing, John. No, not at all. No, you're not. I'm only kidding, gentlemen. Two of the best football minds in the world, Shep Messing, John Harkes. And looking at these Group C standings, you've got Honduras finishing first with 6 points, ahead of Mexico, then Panama with 4, and Cuba going home. And John, did it wrap up the way you thought it would?
Well, really, when you look at Honduras' first match and they're a loss to Panama, and now the goal differential takes them above Mexico, no, I don't think so. But having said that, we did think that Honduras was a good quality side coming into this tournament. So, yeah, it's good that they finished up top. I mean, Shep, I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, definitely, you know, a bit of a surprise. The biggest surprise for me, guys, is Honduras. You're talking about if you had to pick before group play, which team in this group is going to score an average of 3 goals, 9 goals in 3 games, I wouldn't have said Honduras, so a little bit of a surprise.
Yeah, loads of goals, goal differential, as we said, and Mexico kind of struggling, so not putting the goals in the back of the net, and it's going to be dangerous for them going to the next round.
Well, Panama, after 2 solid performances in their opening 2 games, they must have been a little bit worried there finishing third, you know, because it was the 2 best thirds that go through, John.
Yeah, I mean, look, Panama at the end of the day is going to walk away disappointed. I mean, they're thinking to themselves that they gave everything they had in the tournament. They came out with the first win, which was brilliant, and then, you know, against Mexico, they were unlucky. So, look, strong team. They've got a lot to learn from in terms of that lesson, but, you know, I think they performed well.
You know, my biggest disappointment for Panama is not so much where they finished in the group, but they're going to go into the quarterfinals now without 2 key players that got red carded. So, you know, they have a lot of quality in the team. I think they're disappointed that they finished in third. They're more disappointed that Escobar and Torres got red carded. They won't play the next game.
Right, and they also picked up a few injuries as well, Shep. They really extended themselves against Mexico in that last match. So, you know, whether it be, I think we're talking about Beloy and some of the guys, they might have picked up some injuries.
Well, speaking of quarterfinals, yes, the quarterfinals begin on the 16th, and first up in Boston, Canada face Guatemala, and the USA face Panama. And yes, Panama will be struggling without, you know, their key players yet.
Well, I think they will, and I think, you know, the guys that were happiest about it were Bob Bradley and the U.S. team. You know, they're watching the game, they're seeing the red cards, they're seeing the injuries that John alluded to. So you can't take anything for granted, but the United States, I'm sure they're pleased the way that came out.
Yeah, when you look at Canada, Guatemala as well. I mean, Canada, kind of a Jekyll and Hyde. We did discuss that earlier on. In Guatemala now, they're trying to come from, you know, a situation where they got to become a stronger team as well and manage the game throughout the whole 90 minutes. Will they be able to do it against the Canada side? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, that one is really a toss-up for me. I mean, you know, we look at it and say Canada, schizophrenic, Guatemala, you know, John's favorite player, but I don't know. I think that game's a toss-up.
I'll tell you what, you're still sitting here, though, Shep, and go, I picked Canada on the preview show. Pat on the back. You're still smiling about that. Look at him, very, very confident. Well, on Sunday, another couple of fantastic matches in the second lot of quarterfinals. Honduras take on Guadeloupe, yes, the fairy tale team of this tournament. And then Mexico is up against Costa Rica. And John, that Mexico-Costa Rica game will be huge.
It will be huge, Dennis, and I think the one thing that you can focus on in that is really the individual matchups. And sometimes we talk about it, Shep, you know, just in terms of the players, who's going to show up on the day, and what players really will be starting for Mexico. I mean, you know, Bautista now is out; he's been dropped. You know, Blanco, will he come back into the lineup again? So really, with Costa Rica, individually, will they match up on the wings? Who's going to win the battle of the duel? Who's going to push the game onto each other? I think that's going to be the difference here. If you get the service in from the wings, I think that Costa Rica could be a dangerous side.
If you're Sanchez, would you do a man-to-man job on Centeno, Shep?
I think, I think Hugo Sanchez has to worry about Centeno, no question. But I think he's got to worry about his own team. I mean, as John said, he's not worried about who he plays. He's worried about what's going on in his locker room and what selections he makes for the game. I mean, he's got issues. He's got issues. Blanco is not the greatest team guy if he's not in the starting 11, and those are the things that Hugo Sanchez has to think about.
Okay, John, for you, say he does. Say Sanchez decides to put someone on Centeno. If you're Hernan Medford, the coach of Costa Rica, how do you counter that?
Well, I mean, basically sometimes you don't have to counter it. I mean, if anything, maybe he draws another player and they double team him. Now it leaves more space for somebody else to be more creative. And then, it's just that whole shifting around the angles, the triangles, and who's going to find the space. Some of the best players in the world are man-marked and still are able to find a few yards of space to make things happen. I think Walter Centeno is one of those players that can do that.
Yeah, and for Guadeloupe, of course, they go up against Honduras. Do you think we could see them progress through to the semi-finals, John?
I don't think so.
No? No, fairy time might be over for them?
Well, having said that, look, Dennis, I mean, taking everything and putting it into the equation, with the fatigue factor, the lack of amount of players that they can pull from in terms of quality coming off the bench, we've even heard it from their own coach. So, and going up against a side like Honduras, who now has become even more confident and more, a much more stronger team and cohesive team as well defensively, but also with, the man again. We've got to talk about him. Who is it? Leon. Coming back again. He changes the game. He shifts things for him. So, yeah, they're going to have their hands full with this team.
Okay, USA, Panama. We touched on, of course, the injuries for this Panama side. If you were given our say, how would you tackle the USA in that game?
Well, I think, the one thing you got to think about too, and we know Bob Bradley, and he's been able to have that flexibility of changing from one lineup to another. Will he mix it up a little bit more? I do like when he puts Pablo in there or Ricardo Clark, either one, and becomes one ball winner, one guy that really strips the game and shuts down the passing lanes. When he has that, Shep, I think it gives the USA a little bit more freedom to attack with different numbers from different areas of the field.
I totally agree. I mean, the old adage that, what do you need in the midfield, John? You need ball winners and you need playmakers. And I think in the midfield, somebody, Mastroeni, Ricardo Clark, you need that bite in the midfield to allow Landon and everybody else to play with the comfort that when they get forward, they don't have to look over their shoulder. They know somebody's tucked in behind covering them.
Right. In Panama, we did talk about, some of their faults when they're ball watching situations. You can't ball watch when you got to have a Dempsey, when you have a Landon Donovan, when you have a DeMarcus Beasley, guys with pace that are moving off the ball as well. It's going to be a dangerous situation for Panama. I mean, the USA right now is in the driver's seat, and as Shep said earlier, when you're missing two of your starters there, it's going to be difficult to fill that gap and then say, hey, let's keep it compact. They might drop back and look for the counter against the U.S. That's the only thing I think they may have success doing, is if they drop back into a shell and try to play a little bit more distance balls over the top and catch the U.S. with a high line.
Well, it's a tough ask for Panama on the weekend. And yes, some fantastic matchups on Saturday and Sunday. Make sure you're watching all those quarterfinals. When we come back, we wrap up all the round robin action from groups A, B and C.
Work like a pro. Play like a pro. Tackle tough jobs. Dominate the game. Destroy the competition. Go professional. Choose Makita.
Through the Football for Hope movement, FIFA is committed to protecting children and their rights, furthering social integration and peace and reconciliation. Football for Hope champions health promotion and anti-discrimination. FIFA is firmly committed to using football to resolve some of the most pressing social challenges of our time. Football can change the world.
At the Gatorade Sports Science Institute, we test athletes in the lab. Because we know they'll be tested on the field. Gatorade, the most tested sports drink on the planet.
Welcome back to Inside the Gold Cup, where all the round-robin play from the tournament is completed, and up next on the weekend, yes, we have the quarterfinals. Shep Messing, tell me, is it better to start strong or finish strong in group play?
That's a good question, actually, Dennis. I'm pleased with that. I think the first goal is survival. You got to get out of the group. That's the first goal when you start playing. Having said that, it's, I think, better to finish strong. The U.S. started strong. They finished strong. In terms of, I think the other team that really finished strong, Honduras. They beat Mexico, spanked Cuba. So I think those are the teams that really have the momentum going into the quarterfinals.
Can you, like, say with the US, you won 4-0. Sorry, John, I might have interrupted you there. The US won 4-0. Honduras won 5-0. Can you kind of go into this mindset of invincibility? So when you do get to the quarterfinals, maybe you crash and burn a bit, John?
No, that's just being naive. If you have that overconfidence, I don't think anybody has that.
That's
I
what
think
was
they're really.
for.
Yeah, I think that the players themselves and even the coaching staff and everybody are in terms of taking one game at a time. But I agree with Shep. I think that sometimes it's good to start strong, you know, set the tone early, and the other teams kind of back off and react to the way you play. You know, like the U.S. did. I think they did a very good job with that. They weren't world beaters, but, you know, they did okay, U.S., and then they finished strong as well. But, you know, finishing strong is good for the mentality, you know, which you just said. And when you have that, you're able to carry that into the next round. And maybe it's a spiritual lifting thing for you as well, especially if you're not playing too particularly well, but you get the result. And you say, hey, we didn't do well. We got the result anyway, so that's a good sign.
John, you made a good point to me before about this very same topic, which was, I think for the smaller teams, it helps them more if they finish strong. I don't think for a team like Mexico or the U.S., it makes as big a difference, but maybe a Honduras team that all of a sudden has some belief in themselves, I think that makes a difference.
Absolutely.
In group play, who surprised you, John?
I think Honduras did, really, and I think it was probably because of the addition of Leon, you know, really coming into his game. And also with this side, I think, you know, their shape was very good. I thought they played very well. And, you know, at the end of the day, they're a team that can surprise somebody in this next round.
What about yourself, Shep?
Well, surprises work in both directions, and we've been, you know, we've been talking about it. But I think it's a valid point. I mean, I'm really disappointed in Mexico. I thought they come collectively to the Gold Cup with a bunch of very talented players. But we've been talking about it, but it's worth repeating. I think there's you know, unrest in the locker room. I think Hugo Sanchez is making this team play tightly. I'll be very interested to see how they rebound in the next game.
Yeah, and they're very individual as well.
Yeah.
If I may, can I just add a couple? You've got Haiti, the Caribbean champions, and then Trinidad, who finished second in the Caribbean. We know they've had a lot of issues with players out, with, you know, a whole industrial dispute going on there. But are you a little bit disappointed that they didn't possibly make it through to the next round, John?
I don't know if I'd say I'm disappointed, Dennis. I think maybe some of the media writers are. They really built them up and gave them a lot of hype before this tournament. But having said that, this is another level. The Caribbean Championship is one thing. You're playing in the Concacaf Gold Cup, and really being able to play 2 days apart and recover is a whole nother battle. I mean, it really is. So I'm not too disappointed.
Shep, you're nodding there. Obviously, you agree?
I totally agree with John. I mean, if one is a disappointment, I think it's Trinidad and Tobago. My ex-teammate in Riceburg and coaching them. But, you know, that's apples and oranges, because really that's not the team that played in Germany in the World Cup. And it's a totally different roster. So Haiti, I agree with John, you know, kind of what I expected. But Trinidad, I think that's a disappointment, really, just in terms of the players.
All right, it's time for your email. Thank you very much for emailing us at mail@awesomeballs.com. I love our website. Now, this is from Eddie from Rye. Hey, guys, I've heard you refer to a holding midfielder. Would you please define his role and tell me what his responsibilities are, Shep?
Well, I'm going to take that question, but I'm going to defer to my partner here, because in my opinion, he's the greatest midfielder to ever play from the United States. So, John, the definition?
He's good. You are paying him. You got him hooked up
tonight, but thank you.
I mean it.
Plenty of great midfielders for the U.S., but thank you, Chef. Chef, I think what the end of the day is, like, look, when you say a holding midfielder, it's really that midfielder who's almost referred to as a defensive role as well. He's the player that has the responsibility of staying behind the attacking midfielder and the right and left one, and allowing them to get more into the attack. And really his defensive responsibilities are distribution early, picking the ball up, and being a ball winner as well. You've got to be able to shut the team down. He's the main man there that's got to do that.
you don't want to add to that, do you?
I do want to add.
You do? No, I thought, hang on, he's deferred
he adds
it.
balance. He adds good balance in that hole. It's a very important part of the field to really shut things down.
And I want to add to it because the first game I ever saw, I saw, one guy in the middle of the field running 6-7 miles, tracking back, defending, getting forward, making the transition, and one guy standing in the goal in black looking cool. So I said, I'm not going to run 6 miles. but the position has changed. And as John knows, we used to just call it a defensive midfielder or an attacking midfielder. Now with the diamond, it's really that guy that's got to win the ball, sweep in front of the back four, make the transition into the attack. And I think that's a key guy on the team.
Yeah, and he also provides cover and balance for the right and the left. And as the ball switches point of attack from one side of the field to the other in terms of width, he's the guy who's got first slide over and cover that balance in those passing lanes. And it's a very hard job. It really is. And like the U.S., just for instance, Pablo Mastroianni or Ricardo Clark, what Bob Bradley's done very well is he's actually complemented by having 2 or 3 guys in a central backbone line there. One as an in-betweener, maybe Michael Bradley, and Benny Fieldhaber a little bit higher up the pitch, and Pablo or Ricardo being that holding, or we say defensive midfielder role.
That's a transition for the U.S. Claudio Reyna, no longer there. John Hawks, no longer there. So he's got to find new players.
Do you see the position changing much in the future, John? Or where do you see it going, that particular role?
Well, it's difficult to say, Dennis, because the game is always evolving, and the speed of the game has certainly increased over the last 5-6 years. The players are becoming actually more fitter as we advance in the game, and I don't think you'll see too many tactical changes. You can't reinvent the game of soccer. I think if you try to, you really fumble it and you screw it up. So, I think that position there is pretty solid. It's a simple one as well in terms of defining it.
I think we're making too much of the position already. There are 10 other guys on the field.
Let's talk about goalkeeping and their mentality. That's a whole nother show.
Eddie, I hope that answers your question. Thank you very much. Very good question, my friend. And if you would like to email us, it's very easy. All you have to do is mail@awesomeballs.com. Sorry, I love saying that. Mail@awesomeballs.com. Drop us a line. Any question you've got for our panel, they'll be happy to answer it. And all the latest news, goss, whatever you want to know, it is www.concacaf.com or www.goldcup.org. We would love to hear from you.
What is a dub?
You don't. I know you can't.
I know, but it's very confusing for our viewers.
WWW.
Yeah, it's New Zealanders are notorious for cutting words short.
I think
we don't want to say W because there's
we'll
too
get
many.
Jeff Strauss, our producer, to actually put down subtitles for him in the next match. Thank you.
All right, now please make sure that you do get in touch with us tomorrow. Fantastic show. We preview what's coming up in the quarterfinals, so make sure that you join us then for the Gold Cup 2007.
The reproduction, distribution, publication, modification, public display, public performance, or transmission of this broadcast in any manner, in whole or in part, without the express written consent of Concacaf, is strictly prohibited.